Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Thank you so much for watching. Let's begin this live stream. I'm looking forward to talking to people who are in the chat right now live with me. I don't really know where I want to go with this discussion, but hopefully people will ask good questions and I can answer them. That's kind of how life is in a way, which is that you kind of get thrown into a situation by choice sometimes, and you don't always know what to do next. You don't always know how you're going to um, reach your goals, or you don't always know how you're going to figure out the solution to the problems in your life. You just kind of go for it. It's that taking the leap of faith. It's jumping off the cliff and not knowing for sure if you're gonna succeed. And that's kind of part of the adventure uh, of life. That's like the adventurous nature of the way that you live your life. And so it's just an interesting thing I thought I would say about that. I mean, oftentimes like I I can tell you what, I have so many situations where I just realize halfway through, whether it's going to school or getting a new job or trying out something, it's like I realize I really don't know what I'm doing. And it's at some points it can be kind of filling you up with fear because of that reality that you're facing. Like, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing. What if I am not able to succeed? What if I'm not able to reach my goals? What if things don't turn out well? What if like it's just there's a little bit of fear that comes into your life when you kind of look at things like that, you know what I mean? So part of what I've been trying to work on within myself in my life and what I want to share with you guys is, it's not always, and I think I posted this on Twitter. It's not always overcoming fear, whatever it might be, whether it's a phobia of people, a phobia of spiders, whether it's realizing that you don't know what you're doing with your life and you're afraid that it's not going to turn out good. To overcome fear isn't necessarily about decreasing the fear itself. It's most of life is about building confidence and reassuring yourself that you have what it takes to get you know to get to your goals, to succeed. You do in fact have the ability to achieve what you want to achieve. You have the potential to grow. You can overcome a lot of the obstacles and the challenges that you face in your life. And um it's that confidence that I've kind of been lacking in my life, and that's kind of where a lot of my thoughts have come from in what I've shared with you guys so far on my channel. A lot of that is just simply the lack of confidence that I have in myself and my ability to succeed in life and my ability to feel some sort of fulfillment of what I'm doing. It's that fear that I'm crippled by. So it's that insecurity, that I've dealt with, and it's kind of my my wishes. What I want to do with myself is to be able to become very understanding of why I struggle with these insecurities and why I don't have the confidence in myself, and how do I build that confidence. And that's part of what I'm trying to do, is figure that out, become somewhat of an expert on it, in many ways, and just do what I can to share that. So we got a few people here. um, so I just want to say hello to everybody. I'm doing fine today. I hope that you guys are having a great day as well. And for those of you who are joining in the chat right now, um, I do uh, I do hope that you guys leave your comments, what you think about me, what you think about what's going on here. Maybe asking questions. Maybe let me know a little bit about yourself. Who you are, where you're from. I recognize half of you at least right now. So just feel free to um, let me know what's going on in your life. If there's anything that you're struggling with, that could probably help me come up with things to talk about and kind of move the conversation going. Um, you know, so yeah. So thank you guys for being here. What to do? I really think that it's important to kind of reflect on the things that are important in your life where you should be focusing on, because we tend to actually lose track at many points of our higher goals for ourselves. You might realize at some point in your life what you really want to do overall, like with a big picture in mind. You're following your dreams or whatever, but then all of a sudden you get distracted by all the little things that come up along the way, right? Little things happen along the way in your journey of life. And what happens is, you kind of lose sight of the bigger picture. You lose sight. So you get off track of where you want to go. So I think it's very important sometimes just to sit down and think about where you actually want to be in 5 or 10 years. And, you know, uh, you know, uh, realize that it's very I like to think about the idea of hypnotism in the sense that it's real, that you can you can actually hypnotize people to just basically what hypnotism is stealing away your focus, or it's about getting you to focus on something intentionally, and you just kind of have like a narrow view of one thing and one thing only. And that's kind of how I think about hypnotism. So when you see people doing the whole funny, weird, acting weird on stage because a hypnotist at a party comes along and they hypnotize them, and you have them like taking off their clothes or acting like a chicken, that's kind of weird, right? That's hypnotism, and I enjoy that. But on a deeper sense, when I look into hypnotism, I think you know you get hypnotized by watching TV. I mean, when you watch a TV show or when you watch a movie, anytime you sit down and watch a movie, you're in a trance in the sense that you're just focused in on the story, and they're leading you along the way. They're setting you up with what to think about. They're setting up the they're setting up the parameter of which you have the ability to maneuver in terms of like thinking. They're going to set you up with a premise. They're going to give you a character. They're going to have you relate to that character by making the character as relatable to the average person as possible in a movie or story. So once you identify with that character, you imagine yourself being that character, being in that situation as the story unfolds, and you end up getting hypnotized into the story, and you focus on it and you block out what's going on around you. And the only time that you wake up from the trance that you're in when you're watching a movie is when like your phone rings and it like snaps you out of it, and you're like, oh yeah, what's going on? I got real life stuff going on. So just like you kind of have that happen like that in your life as you travel, your journey, going to school, growing up, getting into relationships, getting a new job, whatever, you get focused on the little stories that happen in your life, and it takes a moment for you to like step back and realize the bigger picture that you have. It takes a moment for you to step outside of the trance that you're in from getting distracted by whatever little things are going on, and to remember what your overall goals are for yourself in your life. So I just thought that would be interesting to think about that. I wanted to touch on the subject of hypnotism because I find it fascinating. I can't really go in depth into it because I really don't know much about it, and I can't, just make up stuff for you guys. But something to look into if you're fascinated by hypnotism and what that really means. I would definitely look into that. Yeah. So what do we got? Questions. What are my plans for Halloween? Halloween is yeah, it's coming up and it's tomorrow. I probably won't be doing anything for Halloween. I don't really know what I would be able to do. And yeah, you're 15 and still trick or treating. That's awesome. Um, I can relate to constantly putting myself down, and in the end, I overwhelm myself and I get nothing done. That is a point that I was actually going to talk about anyway. So I'm glad you brought that up. Just the idea of being overwhelmed by things. I mean, yes, you have the part where you constantly put yourself down, constantly thinking that there's something wrong with you, or constantly saying that you can't do anything, or that there's something wrong with you. That's basically what you do when you say that you put yourself down. Is you are just being negative towards yourself, and it's very interesting to think about your feelings towards yourself and how you label yourself, how you describe yourself, And it's when you do that, you're putting a value on who you are. You're establishing some sort of self-worth. You're determining what you feel is what you are able to do. And a lot of times this goes along with the whole idea of confidence, is that sometimes you don't believe that you have the abilities to be successful. um so that is basically what confidence is all about, is you know whether or not you feel like you have the abilities to do what you want to do in your life. And putting yourself down is just a way for you to tell yourself that you don't have what it takes. And yeah, part of why we might feel this way is because we get overwhelmed by the things that are happening in our life, especially when something comes along that you're not expecting to happen, like you get into a car accident, or you lose your job, or you get a bad grade in school. And it kind of just throws off your entire, like, belief that things are going good. Things are going great for a long time, and you just feel like, hey, I can do this. I can do my life. It's all going good. And then the next thing you know, bam, something happens out of nowhere that you didn't expect. And when that happens, how you deal with that situation that comes up is going to deter, part of what I'm learning is that the way to stay on track in my life, to make sure that I don't fall down and get depressed and give up, is basically determined by whether or not you can deal with these unexpected events that occur in your life that throw you off. And it can be very easy to get overwhelmed. It can be very easy to look at the bigger picture of all the things that you want to do. Like, if you just wrote down a list of all the things that you want to do, and then you looked at it and there's like 20 different things on there, like, I want to get a good boyfriend or girlfriend, I want to get a good job, I want to make a lot of money, I want to get good at this video game that I'm playing, I want to, I want to read all the books, and it's like you have all these different things that you want. You can have like 20 of them, and then you say, okay, now go ahead and do them. Make all that stuff happen. And then you're like thinking, okay, I'll try to do it. But then you realize that you don't have enough time to do everything that you want. And we can get very, very overwhelmed because we want so many different things. So this is where you have to know what to do when you do get overwhelmed. How do you deal with that idea of having so many things to do that you want, and just not enough time? So one of the things that's very obvious is you just have to pick and choose which ones you would rather have, prioritizing. If I were you, it's a good tool to do. This is a very practical thing that I'm sure they probably teach in I don't know, like, life coaching situations, or maybe even when you go in for counseling or therapy. I don't really know. I would assume what you would be told to do is to write out all the things that you want in your life, and then put a number in order of the importance and as a priority. So you'd say, okay, doing good in school is going to be like number one or number two or number three or whatever. Making my relationship work out is number one or number two or number three. And you just go down the list and you say what you want. Okay, getting healthier. Like, if you're overweight, if you're struggling, with your weight, and you want to get into shape, maybe that's a bigger priority for you than someone like me, where I'm going to put health and fitness a little bit lower on my list because I've got that okay right now, right? I'm in pretty decent shape. I don't need to focus on it as much as somebody who's trying to make an extra effort to lose weight. So just thinking about, like, the priorities, it's a very good exercise just to, like, write down everything you want and then put like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in order for the things that you want to get done. And it's just a simple exercise to get to focus on what you want to do. And then, okay, so to deal with the struggles of, like, being overwhelmed, this is something that I just started thinking about recently. Is, you feel like you have so many things to do. How are you supposed to get all this stuff done? You feel like the pressure of a time constraint, right? You feel like there's not enough time to get done everything you want, or you feel like, if something happens, like, my girlfriend recently got into a car accident, and it's something that I'm dealing with right now. Kind of a scary thing. She's okay, But she's starting to feel overwhelmed, and I had to try to calm her down and everything because now she has to get a new car. Plus, she's thinking about how much money that's going to cost. She's thinking about also school. She's like worrying about how she's supposed to have a job and go to college at the same time. So that she feels overwhelmed because she feels like you know everything's happening all at once for her. So I guess what I kind of thought about when thinking about this is like, sometimes you have to get so much stuff done in like a small period of time, which, just might be impossible. Sometimes you're asking yourself to do the impossible when you have so many things on your plate. And when you're trying to balance all these plates, I remember listening to this guy, Elliott Hulse, here on YouTube. Probably some of you guys know who he is. And in one of the talks that he gave, or one of the it might have even been the interview he had with Ty Lopez. I seen that one. Um, he talked about spinning the plates. So you have all these different things in your life, like um, trying to have a good relationship. So you have this plate, and you spin the plate on your finger, right? So you're sitting here with your finger, you're balancing a plate on your finger. Then you have this other thing you're trying to get, which is school. So you got relationships, you got school, and you're spinning these plates. So I think this is how it went. I might be getting it completely wrong, but you think about like all the different things that you're trying to balance at one time in your life. So it's like a balancing act. So to keep the plate spinning, you got to give them a little bit of your attention. Okay, so school, focus on school a little bit, do your homework. Okay, then go over here, say hi, I love you to your boyfriend or girlfriend. Okay, cool. Go to your job, do all that. You got to keep your house clean. Okay, cleaning the house. Okay, you got all these different things you got to keep track of, and it's kind of like a balancing act of keeping the plate spinning, giving them a little bit of attention. So that's how it's a good way to think about uh, trying to keep yourself afloat, trying to keep your ship going because you got all the stuff that you're trying to do, and you might get overwhelmed because you can't balance everything, and you have to figure out how do you do that. Um, so another strategy that I have is, and I don't really have a response to I don't have a follow up to that example. I just remember hearing that from Elliott Hulse in one of his interviews, or one of his videos. Um, but anyway, what I would like to say in addition to that, with the topic of being overwhelmed by stuff, is there are some things that you really want out of your life, like the goals that you have for yourself. When you talk about like, hey, have you written down the list of things that you want out of your life, short-term goals, long-term goals? If you haven't done that yet, think about taking some time just to do that real quick. I used to do that all the time in the past. I haven't done it recently, which is probably a good idea that maybe I should start doing it again for now, because it can help you focus on what you want so you don't get distracted. You know what I mean? So you don't lose sight of the bigger picture, because like I said earlier in the stream, is you get distracted by the things that come up unexpected. You get distracted by, you lose your focus on your greater dreams, your greater goals, or whatever you have for yourself, because things come up. So to keep on track, it's a good idea just to take some time of self-reflection, write stuff down, what you want. Um, but what you can do, and this is something that I've learned, and it's to be more patient with your goals. You might say you want to have a girlfriend or maybe a boyfriend or something because you don't have one and you really, really want one. And or maybe friends. You don't have a lot of friends, you want to have more friends, and you say, I want to have friends. But you get really, really upset when you don't see yourself making that progress to getting that done. And you feel like if you don't get a boyfriend, girlfriend, or new friends or whatever in the next half a year or whatever, that you're going to be disappointed because you didn't get what you wanted in that amount of time. So it's a very simple thing, is just to take all your goals and realize that some of these things are going to take a while, and to not ask yourself to have them completed, to not have to have these things that you want. They don't need to happen all at once, they don't need to happen all right away. What I've really learned, and this is basically my way of looking at my life right now, and in terms of personal development, of making myself happier, of making myself into the person that I truly would like to be in my life. I've learned to just take my time with it. One of my goals was back in 2012, 2013. I started up this YouTube channel and I started uploading videos of, trying to be this motivational character, trying to be this guy who, you know, um, would spew out like all these like stuff about like life and everything. And I started this channel. One of my goals was like, okay, I want to get a lot of subscribers to this channel, blah blah blah, whatever. You guys know the drill. Um, and when I realized, here I am, 2016, at the end of the year, 3 years later, 4 years later, that I've been here uploading videos, and I realized that you can't just get what you want immediately. I have 2,000 subscribers. I'm very happy. This is the most subscribers I've ever had, obviously, and it's a cool experience to see myself grow. Like, it's very easy to see how my channel grows because of it's very easy to measure how things are going based on the number of views and subscribers and people interaction, comments and feedback and all that stuff. It's great. So tracking your own personal growth in some cases can be difficult to do because you can't really measure it very much. But other things, you can measure very well, like how much money you have in the bank, or um, how much weight you've lost or whatever, um, that kind of thing, or how far you can run if you're practicing running and doing long distance marathons or whatever. I mean, it's very easy to track progress when you can measure it, and sometimes some things in your life you can't track that progress very easily. You can't measure it very well, so we oftentimes can get disappointed, or sometimes we feel like we're not making any progress because you can't measure it very well. And this is one of those things where this is why I'm bringing this up, is because I feel like you have to realize that as long as you're putting some sort of effort or energy into making progress, sometimes it's just taking more time to think about things and taking more time to set yourself straight and focus on what you want. That in itself is a thing that is going to have a long-term consequence that's going to be in your favor. So, if you might not see the results occurring right away. You might not be able to think you're making progress, but you really are. So just make sure that when you're sitting down and you're watching me, talk for 30 minutes or an hour straight, that you realize that what you're doing by listening to me is you're consuming something, a content, right? Information. You're listening to me, or if you listen to someone else who is also talking about something important to you, to realize that what you're doing by spending your time on that is it's intangible, it's not measurable. It's setting your brain to focus on something that's going to lead you to thinking about this even more in your future. So this is why I talked about hypnotism, at the beginning of this, just for a second, because you can spend so much time playing video games that you've kind of gotten uh, locked into a trance, almost a hypnotic type state, where your body is trained, your psychology, you're wired to continually do the same thing over and over again, and it's almost like you're stuck. So part of what I'm interested in doing when I talk to you guys right now is I'm very interested in like getting you guys to recognize the path that you're on, to recognize what you're doing in your life, and to basically just take a moment to stop and ask yourself if you're doing what you really want to be doing, and if maybe ask yourself if there's something better that you could be doing, and how are you supposed to know what's better for you? If you've never learned from anybody what you should actually be doing, how do you know that what you're doing right now is the best thing for you? Because you might be, living your life thinking everything's great, but then all of a sudden you meet someone who's, rich and famous, or really smart, or someone who's got like a totally different lifestyle than you, and you feel like, man, this person is an inspiration, or this person's a role model, and you get inspired, right, by this person because they're incredible. They're like so attractive and appealing to you that you want to be more like them, right? You're like jealous. You're very envious, or maybe not even in a bad way, but in a good way. Like, you want to be more like them as a positive influence on you. So very simple. You just spend more time listening to that person, or you spend more time trying to mimic them and copy them or learn from them. What are they doing different than what you're doing? So it's like, you might think along the way of your life that you're doing things great, that you're living a good life, that you've got things under control, that whatever. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you're going to be like, holy crap, look at that guy standing up there on the top of the mountain. I'm here at the bottom. how am I supposed to get up there? You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I'm trying to do is just to get you to think a little bit more about your life and to be honest with you, what I've struggled with in my life, and this is kind of a confession. um, I've spent all my time literally thinking about that. I probably am one of the most like fascinated by people than I would say than most the average person. I'm more fascinated by people than I would say other people are, and I can tell this by looking at people's behavior and looking at what people spend their most of their time doing. Um, I tend to find, I mean, so most if you're listening to this right now, if you're listening to me talk, you're probably very similar to me, so we're probably on the same page. But other people who are interested in this kind of stuff probably aren't like me. I tend to look at everyone and find out what is it about this person that makes them so incredible or unique, or why is this person like if I was to meet any one of you watching this right now in person, I would be looking at you and studying you, not in a creepy way. I apologize. This probably sounds weird. But like trying to figure you out. I would ask you questions about yourself, where why do you do what you do? What are you good at? What's your history about? What things have you gone through in your life that have had a major impact on who you are today? These are good questions for you to answer because I'm fascinated by it, which is why I tend to really like to watch like interviews or podcasts to kind of get in the minds of people to hear what they have to say. And I think that a lot of people are like that. A lot of people like to know that kind of stuff, but I feel like I've kind of taken it to an obsessive level where that's all I do with my time 24/7 is just sitting down, listening to people talk. All I do is sit around and try to get into the minds of people. And why do I do this? Because I feel as if there's kind of this kind of lack of confidence that I have, this insecurities, this lack of self worth. I talk a lot about how I hate myself. I've mentioned how I kind of, at some points, I hate myself, and at some points, I don't really like how my life is going, and I just want to change. I want to transform, right? That idea of transformation, that's a very popular way of thinking about everything. Is self transformation. It's a very common thing that's talked about in like religion and mythology and everything like that is transformation. So I always think about how can I change. Some people are fine. Some people are okay with the way that their life is going. They're happy with who they are. They don't feel like they want to change. But that's why I feel like I'm different. And a lot of people who are watching this, like you guys, are probably the exact same way as me. You might be looking at your life and thinking that it's not going so great and you want to change it a little bit. Everybody wants to change, of course. Everybody wants to grow. We all have a natural desire biologically, psychologically, it's human nature to want to improve your situation. Like that's obvious. But so I think that lack of confidence in myself is why I look towards other people to learn how they are so I can then, pick up on things and apply those new ideas or strategies and to myself. And I feel like this is a good thing to do. Like I mean anybody would say that's a good thing to do, but I feel like that's how we learn is by copying each other and picking up on what good things other people are doing. And it's why it pays off to have good family members, or it's why it pays off to have friends who can tell you when you're not doing something good, when you're being an asshole. That's why it's a good thing to have friends who are telling you that you're kind of a little bit lazy and you should maybe try to do more. And it's why you should listen to people when they tell you that kind of thing. Because most people probably don't, well, I don't know about most people, but a lot of people I'm sure don't have the best ability to sit back and be self-aware and reflect on what they're doing. So they require that other people tell them what is going on with them. So that's why it pays off to have friends and family and stuff to let you know what you're not doing good at so you can change that. And if I think that's why I've kind of cut myself off from other people and isolated myself, kind of sitting here by myself and living alone and everything, where or not surrounding myself with the people that would make me the best person that I could be. you know by cutting myself off from everyone, I've kind of forced myself to have to think about this stuff on my own and not let other, when no one tells me what I'm doing wrong, it's very hard to keep myself on track. It's very hard to keep myself productive and happy and everything. Um, so that's just kind of a lot of my thoughts on everything. Um, all right. So this is a pretty good talk so far, half an hour in. I just want to say thank you for those of you who are here. There's probably only a few of you guys, but that's okay. Um, uh, yeah. So I think you guys kind of get what I'm saying. Just big takeaway is, you know, basically just looking at where you're at in your life. What are you doing and why are you doing it? And asking yourself important questions. And some of these questions are, like, am I happy? Am I asking? Sometimes it's like you're asking so much of yourself, getting overwhelmed, and you have to ask yourself, am I asking too much of myself? Am I trying too hard? Am I overthinking? And um, I don't know how you get yourself to start asking those questions in the first place. What is it that gets you to do that? But I guess sometimes there's other people just letting you know. But if you have it in you, if you have the ability to be self-aware, that's a good thing. So, any of you guys have any questions for me or comments so far? I mean, that would be really great um, for me to get some feedback. So, uh, let's see what else is going on right now. Um, I'm very happy with what I've said so far. I think I've made myself clear what I've said. You know, um, man, I don't even know where to go from here. You know what I mean? Uh, I think one of the things that I've been fascinated in lately is looking into religious teachings and mythology and everything like that. I think that's a very good place to be at. I think that's a very interesting thing to look into, and I feel like the normal average person in society, like I said, they got busy lives. Everybody's got their own thing to do. You don't really have the time to sit down and read. You know what I mean? But if you can, I mean, I think it's such an incredibly important thing to do. You don't have to believe in, some, mythological and religious ideas and stories necessarily, but to understand it and realize the connection between what they're saying in a lot of these texts is, a story about the human condition, the human consciousness, and a lot of the things that are talked about can be answers to some of the questions that you might be have if you're struggling with, your life and you don't know what to do and you're battling things. A lot of the things that you are trying to cope with, whether it's fear or whether it's whether it might be like you know trying to become the best version of yourself or whatever. Sometimes there are very interesting things that I've read, and so just I just want to throw that in there that I'm fascinated with it, something I've been into lately. So if you have an interest, or I think people should start doing that. I'm also trying to get into like more like just philosophy in general. Just it's so hard because there's so much stuff. There's so much stuff to read and to look into, and it's like, well, where do I start? And it's this whole thing where it's like I have a long like journey ahead of me if I'm gonna really be fascinated with philosophy and mythology. It's like there's so much to dive into, so much to learn. It seems like it can almost take like a lifetime to really get a good grasp on what you're reading and what you're understanding. But that search for understanding is something that's so important to me, and I have to know more. I have to have a better grasp on what to do because that's going to help me be more confident. It's going to help me figure out how to think about things, and knowing how to think about things is very important because of you know um, Otherwise, the decisions that you make in your life are just whatever. And I want to have more of a control over the way that things go in my life, and I want to be able to have more of I want to have more of a healthy, stable life. So, anyway, enough about that stuff. I don't really know where that was going. Okay, 35 minutes. Bump the camera. That's good. Let's see. What can I talk about? Don't really know what to talk about anymore. Nobody's really leaving any comments or anything, so kind of losing a little bit of where I was going with things. I might just end it shortly. I gotta leave soon anyway, so maybe it would be a good idea just to end the stream here. I think this will make a good video to go off on my channel, so I do hope that, whoever you guys are that are watching right now, that you will, provide me with a little bit of feedback on the comments of the video after it's uploaded, and let me know what you think. I'm going to end the video now, so I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Yeah, let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye, guys.